Good morning and welcome to the Gainsborough Studio Felixstowe Television. We are continuing with the saga that is Eric, This Is Your Life. Episode 10 or 11, I'm not sure which, but it goes on.
I've lost count of it.
But what we'll do, we'll pick up from where we were, where you are now. You've moved within Seaford to a property called Dial House.
That's right.
And you gained access to that property because of the administrator at Westminster Cathedral, was it not? I don't know what rank he was then.
Well, he was a Monsignor,
right.
And then he later became the Bishop of Leeds.
So he should.
And of course he's dead now, God rest his soul.
But thank you, Bishop Wheeler.
Absolutely.
For you know.
Somebody had left this huge house, it was a big house,
right.
10 bedrooms, standing in its own grounds, and
right.
they'd left it to the Catholic Church for Westminster Cathedral. Oh, right. And he was just using it for weekends and as a holiday place. So of course when I went, or when my parish priest sort of sent me up to him, or he came down to see me, I can't remember.
Whichever.
He thought to himself, I said, well, this is a question, we're looking to help some of these children who are in desperate need. There were being hundreds of them. The children's homes were absolutely jam-packed, solid, hundreds of children.
There were, I vaguely remember that.
There was no money for fostering. Nowadays they foster them out and give money. There was nothing like that, unfortunately. And they were shipping them off to Australia, to Canada.
Yes.
It was dreadful. This was after the war, there was this great explosion of children, and of course marriages broken down because of the war, so people didn't know what to do with the children, so they were a great problem, and of course...
Not a great resource, just a problem.
And of course, as I think you may recall, we'd lost our first child.
You had.
And we had 9 blood children altogether, so we
were busy.
We were busy bees.
That's good.
But we lost our first one, and that made us turn. My wife was very religious and very concerned, and so we thought we'd try and help a child who was in those circumstances. And this is how we got our eldest boy, Blair, to replace the one we'd lost. He's a dear boy. He's so clever. He's done so well for himself.
Can I just say, we've met him, and we do wish, don't we, into future programming, establishing a link to Australia where Blair now lives. We hope, dear viewer, if you have relatives in Australia or that way, we may well come up with some links in the future. So that's future programming.
Well, future program, but Blair
depends on the executive, doesn't it, Eric?
Oh yes, he's got a property in the Snowy Mountains, and he's got a chapel there. And I like to think he's continued the work which we perhaps started.
Right, grand.
But coming back, I've forgotten what we were talking about.
We were talking about the fact that you persuaded or reached a deal with Monsieur Wheeler that you would now move into Dial House. That gave you, I don't know how many bedrooms, but certainly more than you had.
Yeah, oh yes, many more. But of course, Monsignor Wheeler, he felt guilty because he was using this big property as a holiday use, and there was a need for children and accommodation of children, which he was well aware of, and he did the right thing. He said you can have it.
Peppercorn rent?
Well, I can't remember. I think it wasn't such a peppercorn rent.
Oh, right.
And it also saved him expense because there was a gardener. It came with this huge ground, and it had a gardener, so we had to pay the gardener.
Oh, right.
So it wasn't completely. So I had to, in those days, as I say, there was no money involved, and so. But it gave me the motivation.
Indeed.
I had to go out and make money either with inventions, with magic. I was doing my magical acts, and
so at this time, when you moved into Dial House, you were making an income from the photography.
Oh yes,
that was visiting council estates and other estates.
Oh no, I'd gone off that.
You moved into a studio by
that.
Was
that was the desperate going around the council estates when we were absolutely penniless, and I had to get money in for the Saturday.
Yeah,
you can be very desperate. But
yes,
you can do something about it.
Yes.
This is the thing, and people today, I wish they had the motivation because they're losing out by not having it.
Yes,
unfortunately. Yes. But no, I'd moved on then to I went on to the stage photography. I was the main photographer for the theatre in Brighton, and I did fashion photography with the mannequins and
yes,
what have you.
Yes, we covered
and
that.
Then I started this one, which was the main source of income, of doing the hotels in Eastbourne.
Oh, yes, you
and
said.
we made a picture of the hotel with views around it.
Yeah.
And the hotels used to buy them. And I put in this huge drying machine in one of our rooms.
Yes, you said, and you were working day and night.
And then, unfortunately or fortunately, business got so good, I had it shipped out, had it done by a subsidiary of Ilford's.
Yes.
And in actual fact, they took over the business when we finished it, but that's another story.
Yes.
But no, so we had the income, I
Right.
had from various sources. I just had to work harder to get it. But the council in London, because we were dealing with the Lambeth Council at the time.
Oh, were you?
This is where I think this is where we'd got Blair from.
Right.
And because we were in London when we started it, and they thought, well, here are a couple of suckers.
Did they?
Well, I think they did, because nobody else wanted to do anything with these children.
No.
And you see, the big problem was that particularly the Catholic children, you'd get a family of 4 or 5 or 6 children.
All in one.
And what was happening was they would break them up.
Oh, no, that's
and
bad.
they'd put 2 children here and 1 child there, and they'd never see each other again.
No.
Some of them went out to Australia, and they haven't seen their siblings ever since. It's terrible. People
That's an
don't
ongoing.
realise.
That's an ongoing case, isn't
Is
it?
that so?
Oh yes,
Oh, I didn't
I
know
think
that.
there was recently there was an Australian gentleman, I remember, who came across here, finding out where their siblings are, and it's an ongoing need even today.
Even today, well, that shows you.
Because it's getting the records, and
Yes.
and I think there are some pending court cases.
Well, I'm sure.
As always.
But at any rate, as I say, coming back to the children, the council finding us, this couple willing to take children, they came, of course, in the first family we had for Dial House. They said to us, well, there's 4 in the children. The mother is expecting another one by another father, I might add.
Right.
And they said the eldest girl now is over 5, and she's the children's homes. Then they had under the age of 5 and over the age of 5.
Oh,
so
right. So there was a split
the 4
there.
of them were in the children's home, in the under 5 one. The eldest girl was now over 5, and they were going to move her to another children's home away from her siblings.
Oh, right.
So they, of course, came to us with this story saying, well, if you don't
get
have
the
them,
accommodation,
the family's going to be broken up. And so we, of course, said yes. Well, this is what triggered off the whole thing to get Dial House.
I was thinking, yes, there was a drive.
And of course, I always remember the day we started it, I had a special lunch for Monsignor Wheeler, my sister, I think it was, and of course ourselves, the parish priest.
And you got mum-in-law.
Pardon?
You had mum-in-law.
Mum-in-law.
Mum-in-law was with you.
Mum-in-law was there, but she didn't enter into.
Oh, did she
like
not?
that. No,
Right.
no.
Okay.
So we had that, and we were there sitting in the room, and I always remember to this day the 2 sisters walking in through the door, and I'm delighted to say that the eldest girl, I went to her 60th birthday party this year, earlier this year. So isn't it lovely?
It is.
And you've got to remember that where we were special was that although we didn't officially adopt the children, and the reason for that was because they had parents or people in the background somewhere, so they weren't free for adoption.
No.
They nevertheless came to us, and they stayed with us. We became Mummy and Daddy, and proof of the pudding is that Blair is in Australia today.
Yeah.
He's nearly, I can't remember, 65, 66.
He's my contemporary, really.
Marion is 60 now, and going downward. But they had 2 brothers, which were very sad because they had been, they'd had some illness. I can't remember what it was. It was a contagious illness. And when they came to us, because they were very troublesome, unfortunately, because and they'd apparently been locked in a ward, a hospital ward, these 2 boys, only little boys, 2 or 3 years of age, and they'd been locked in this ward. It's the only way they could be controlled. And they were still suffering from the illness on that day when we opened up, and they came to us, and we had to get to the doctor, and they had to be isolated.
Yes.
We had to put them in isolation because but it just shows you how children, the whole atmosphere has changed completely now, which is right. This is how it should be now, as it is today.
But the responsibility for looking after what was a local authority. It was Lambeth Council's obligation.
Obligation.
So did they assist in any way? I mean, in that, if they weren't having...
They used to give us a minimal...
some subsistence for the children.
A minimum, but it didn't go anywhere. Just for example, for Christmas, to cover all their presents, all their food, all their... everything for Christmas, you know, and it's quite a big thing over Christmas. They used to give us 50p.
10 shillings.
10 shillings. That covered everything for Christmas. Amazing. But that was on that sort of scale.
Yeah.
You know what I
so
mean?
That was a high standard of gruel that they could have.
Nowadays, there's a standard amount and what's it. Yeah. But of course, in those days, it was all down to the officers concerned. And we found that I didn't realise it till later, but I think they were giving us some very minimal sum for looking after them. But I found out later they could have given us a lot more. But we didn't find that out till much
Saving
later.
the ratepayer, if they can, Derek, in Lambert, a very important task of a local government officer. Yes, Bella.
So we had this big house, and of course, what were we going to do for staff?
Right.
So I thought, well, we must try and help somebody. We were very...
So in this big house, there was you, Marion, your mother-in-law.
That's right.
5 of your own children.
Yes.
Joined by another 4 at this time.
At that time. They were the 4 first.
That's quite a few of you. That's quite a big lunch to prepare.
Oh, it's quite a lot.
It becomes a military, logistical, not nightmare, but a lot to do.
So you can see why I was rushing around.
Yeah, I could see. But
that motivation was good for me, you know, something which was very good.
Right.
But so we had to have somebody to help us, obviously.
Indeed,
we had the gardener, who we had to find the money for as well.
Well, he came with the property.
He came with the property. No, I had to still pay him, unfortunately.
But was he able to provide you with vegetables and things?
No,
or it was purely ornamental?
Ornamental garden, yes. Just cutting the lawns and cutting the hedges and what have you.
Right.
But coming back to thinking about staff, so I thought we would try and help somebody. But in those days, an unmarried mother was considered beyond the pale,
yeah.
You know, if you had an illegitimate child. And it just shows you how different things are, because in those days, if a woman had an illegitimate child, the father of the child had to pay 15 shillings or 75p a week until the child was 14. And of course this made all the young men very anxious not to be named or not to do it. Do you know what? Or if they did it, to take precautions.
I did hear of a case in Plimpton whereby that paternity case was being heard, and the known father got 5 of his friends to go in the box and say that they had also had knowledge of this lady. And what the judge did, he made the award against all of them.
Oh, it's a good thing. But anyway, that's what I think, a thing which could be done today, which is very important.
Yes.
But anyway, coming back to Betty, she came to us with this little baby. I went to this society. I said we want a deserving case and who would benefit by it. As I say, because they didn't have any, they had got no support as they do today. Today it's a much better system. But so Betty came to us with the child, and we thought, well, this is fine. But then after a little while, I began to get a little bit worried about Betty because, she was very lazy.
Right.
And she didn't.
Big lady, you said.
A very big lady.
Right.
But she was saying that her baby. Obviously, I asked her. She said the father is a famous pianist.
Fair enough. Good.
So I said, isn't he supporting your child? Oh no. And I said, well, I'll pay for you to go down to my solicitor and sort it out, and get the father to maintenance, because it's not right that he's had the child and there she is scrubbing floors and to keep going. And so I sent her down to the solicitor. Right. And this is where my little worries started, because the solicitor came to me and said, now look, he said, I don't think you ought to be very, very careful. He said, because I've asked her a lot of questions, and I find that she's a prostitute.
Whoops.
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 and
Farther on now.
Yeah, and it could be any one of a number of things. The pianist just happened to be one of her customers.
Oh, I see. And that's the one she would have wished to have been.
Absolutely. So, but that was right. I forgave her that and said we had a little talk to her.
You see, with DNA then, we would have known, wouldn't we?
No, but no DNA in those
it's
days,
an amazing
unfortunately.
invention.
But then the thing which really cooked the books was the problem was in those days, as I say, there was no sickness benefit. Well, there was sickness benefit,
limited, wasn't
but very limited.
Yeah, it was.
And I was ill for a few weeks.
Right.
And so I thought, well, why shouldn't I apply for it? You know. So I applied for it, and after about a month or 6 weeks, I got a cheque for, I think it was £3.
Right.
I thought, well, how could anybody live for 6 weeks
with that number of children
on £3?
Absolutely,
it was absolutely ridiculous. So I phoned them up, and they said, "But we've been sending you £3 every week."
Oh, right.
And I said, "No, you haven't. I certainly haven't." They said, "We've got your signature here
Oh, right.
on it. It's been cashed in London." Don't forget, I was living in Seaford.
Yeah.
Cashed in London every Wednesday. What's it? That's when it made me suspicious, because I thought, well, it's a funny thing, but Betty always has Wednesday off, and she always goes to London on a Wednesday.
Oh dear.
So just to show you, this isn't. I mean, hopefully Betty's dead a long time ago, and it just shows you how if evil becomes ingrained in somebody, how you can't help them. Because I called her in, and I said, "Now look, Betty. This has come to light." She said, "Are you accusing me of taking your money?" And I said, "Well, it came in the post. We've got the signed things here." And I said, "Look, if you look at those signatures, you'll see, although it's my name, it's your writing."
Dear me.
"No, that's not." She denied that. It took me half an hour before I could get her to admit it. She admitted it. And so I said, "Well, then let's forget about it and what have you." But because she had that sort of in her, she said, "Well, I don't really want to continue here, you know, what have you." And I said, "Well, that's okay, I'll make arrangements for you." And I found a convent who would take her and the child, but she vanished.
Just disappeared, and you've never heard of since?
Never heard from her since.
But I understood you had an event, it could be the Flying Ducks.
Oh, the Flying Ducks.
So you should have been a little bit forewarned that, you know, there were things awry.
Oh, right.
And bit of a shame, really, when you consider how many of you there were, and she must have known things were very tight.
Yes. But we had these 6 ducks, and they used to lay eggs, and we used to, lovely, and they were pets. The children loved them, you've no idea. And then one day they disappeared.
What, flown away?
God.
Call of the wild.
We used to keep them in the garage and let them out in the garden, and they were very safe. There's no way they could get out. And I always remember she said, as you said, she said, "Oh, they must have flown away, flown away." And I said, "Well, I don't know."
Yeah.
But then after she'd gone and it was all finished and done with, the postman came to me one day and he said, "Do you know," he said, those ducks that Betty sold me, they're lovely. They really are beautiful." So that's what happened to my Flying Ducks.
So the postman had them?
The postman had them. Not just had them, he bought them. So I didn't have the heart to tell him that...
But I must admit, duck's eggs have a very a stronger but interesting flavour. I mean, they're lovely, very healthy.
They're nothing compared to a goose egg.
No, I've never had a goose egg.
Oh,
have you,
my
Bella?
word, if you can have a goose egg, you'll be delighted. They're really a meal in themselves, and the flavour is absolutely beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful. We used to have geese when we were at Bridge Farm.
Oh,
but
right.
That's another story that goes on.
Okay, now at some point you started getting interested in the very expensive motor cars.
Well, not interested in the very expensive motor cars, because you see, I go back when we were up in the up at the top of the mountain. We had the house at the top of the mountain. I bought from one of the members of staff there, what was it, an Austin? I can't remember. Austin
12?
8, I
or
think.
8.
Austin 8.
Right.
And of course, in those days, this is going back to those a bit earlier as well. The standard price for a second-hand Austin 8, no, Austin 7.
Yes.
There was a Morris 8.
That's right.
And a Ford
I like
8.
the Morris 8.
Yes.
I thought they were a lovely
and
car.
the standard price was £5.
Yeah.
You see, when you think about it. In fact, I was outside a charity shop, or inside a charity shop last week.
Oh, right.
And I heard a man saying, he said, I've just been to see a lovely old car, a Riley. And he said...
What, the Roadster?
He
1.5?
didn't say which model
Right.
it was. He said it was restored, absolutely beautiful, it's worth a fortune.
Oh, right.
So I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, well, just to put you in the picture, when I was younger, just
Yes.
after the war, I said I bought a Riley and I paid through the nose for it because the regular price was £5
Right.
for you know, Austin or a
Yeah,
Ford or
yeah.
a Morris or what have you. And I said I paid £7.10 or £7.50 for it. You only get 2 or 3 litres of petrol now.
Well, you're lucky, aren't you? I mean, yeah, the whole concept of money has changed completely.
But when we had the house in the middle of Seaford, we had to go up to London for Christmas, and I had the money for the rates that were going to be due in January.
Right.
And I had them ready for payment. And then up the road, what did I see? A Humber limousine, absolutely beautiful, immaculate.
Oh,
It was
right.
Absolutely a beautiful thing. Of course, nobody wanted it because
Too
of
big, too
petrol
expensive,
consumption,
yeah,
expensive
huge,
to run. But
yeah.
of course, to my eyes glittered because it was big. I could crowd it up with children.
Yeah, and you had lots of them. Yes.
I had plenty of
Yeah.
children. So,
Nearly a
and the
caravan.
price was horrendous.
Was it?
£25 for this magnificent limousine. So there was I faced. I had to go up to London for Christmas.
Right.
I had to get all this huge family up there. And
Right.
how was I going to do it? I only had a small, I think I can't remember.
Whatever.
I know what I had. That's another story, but what I had at that
Right.
time. But at any rate, so I thought, well, blow that. I trust in God. He'll provide somehow.
Oh, right.
And so I used
you
the
blew
rate.
it.
Used the rates money, and I bought this £25.
How
Humber.
totally
It
irresponsible,
was
Eric.
completely irresponsible.
Wasn't it, Bella? Yes.
But so we went up to London, we came back, and I thought, well, now I've got to face the music. How am I going to pay the rates?
Yes, absolutely.
There on the doorstep, when I got in the door, I opened the post, and there was a cheque for the same amount, it was £50, I think it was, for the rates,
Right.
which was just the right amount. And this was for a patent which I got hold of called the Rousseau blocks. They were invented in France.
Right.
And it was a marvellous printing, building process, a bit like Lego.
Right.
And I don't know why it was never followed up and carried through. It might have
Oh,
been
it is.
in
It still
France.
is.
It is still.
I
is
saw
it?
it demonstrated at the Eco Centre during
Oh,
last
really?
year's
Oh,
exhibition.
really? Oh,
You
I'm
should
so
come
glad.
down to the one this year. It's
Yes, but-
phenomenal
but
things.
what-
But they recycle old ideas, don't they?
Yeah,
And
well,
that's what we should do.
But this I'd got the patent for America, and there was this check to cover the
Brilliant.
my commission for doing it.
Yeah.
But the principle of it was very good. They just had these very precise concrete blocks.
Yes.
They each had a little niche in them, so
And you just
peg would
slotted
put
it in.
and you could erect a tremendous wall
Yeah.
very accurately.
Yeah.
You just had to have a dead flat base to put
Yeah.
it on,
Yeah.
and then the wall went up. You could put a huge wall up in a day,
Yeah.
and it was accurate.
Yes,
It was
I know.
perfect.
Because
And
they
you-
all lock and locate.
all
don't they?
lock in and
Yeah,
locate.
yeah.
But you know, some of these ideas.
You should look at Smeaton's Tower on Plymouth Hoe. That was built exactly on that principle,
Really?
but with locking stone that they
Really?
made on shore.
Really?
So the whole thing is able to move.
Yes,
Because it's
yeah,
into so
yeah.
there's give.
Yeah.
So because the 3 previous towers for Plymouth were lost to the sea
Were they really? Oh,
because
that's
of
a
the
shame,
the
yes.
big storms that rained.
But you
And
see, what people don't realise
There's
is
nothing
that a lot
new
of
in the
these-
world.
Yes, but there's some wonderful inventions which have been let go.
Yes, I
Now you take, for argument's sake, once again, about the same time as the Rousseau, another thing I was chasing up at that time was a new roofing method.
Oh,
and
right.
It was sheets, but
Yes.
they looked like tiles.
right.
See what I mean? So you
Yeah.
had these complete big sheets. So once again, you could go up, tack
Bang, bang,
these,
bang, bang.
bang back, and you have the whole roof done, completely watertight,
Yeah.
and minimal cost, fraction of the labour.
Could
And-
well be vested interests that stop these things.
No,
getting
what
off the
stopped
ground.
that
Oh, right.
was a council estate in London.
Oh,
They
right.
built this huge council estate,
Yes.
and they did all the houses with it, but unfortunately the men who put them up
Didn't know what they
just put a tack in each corner, So the first time the wind blew, the roofs all came off away, and it was never used again. But there's still today, this day, you know, there's still an opening for that, because I think it's a brilliant idea.
Well, I think our current attempts at housing our own population are abysmal, appalling, and totally inadequate.
Do you?
I do. You know, the new techniques, etc., they tend to be much more expensive, much more regulatory driven, and there are easier and better ways of doing it.
I know. And if you go to Germany,
you go to Canada,
to Germany now, you can do it in England. Here now, you can buy a house, and you can literally have it shipped over from Germany, and it'll be up in 3 days, and much cheaper than if you do it.
Well, they built a couple of those again at Excel for the Eco Exhibition.
Did they really?
So you should come down this year.
I would love to come,
we'll go. Anyway, look, dear listener, we're still in Dial House, aren't we, in Seaford. Now, we got to the point, I think, where you were being looked to probably to take even more children, but I think also the Monsieur wanted to have his house back, didn't he?
Yes, that's a good
So
point.
he was becoming a fixer in your life from a point of view of perhaps offering you a new horizon in a new town. And I believe this concerned the Duke of Norfolk, no less.
It was indeed. This is the late Duke. Well,
so can we put a taster out for our viewer for the next time?
Yes, by all means.
So
you see, there'd been this convent in Arundel in Sussex for 100 years, St Wilfrid's Convent.
Right.
And this...
I take it there were no longer any nuns there.
Well, the nuns, they had their main headquarters at a nearby seaside town.
Oh, right.
And they wanted to give up this building, A, because it was so huge, B, because it was so dilapidated, and C, because it didn't have any current services. It only had gas and and a little bit of electricity. Yeah. And so they wanted to give it up.
Just outside of Arundel, there's Poor Clare.
The poor, that's another story. I'll tell you about the Poor Clares.
No, I thought
I had a lot to do with the Poor
Did
Clares.
you really?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That's an enclosed order.
It is, yes.
And we must talk about that next time.
Right.
But there was this huge building. Monsignor Wheeler came to me and he said, you know, I know you want a lot of children, but he said, I don't know whether this building might be too big for you.
So
it's got 70 rooms.
Wow.
It was huge, so I went to have a look at it. I went up the high street in Arundel.
Yes.
There was the main castle gates, and from the main castle gates, trending up the hill, is this huge building which looks like the castle.
Yes.
And that was Arundel. Well, it wasn't Arundel Priory then, it was St Wilfrid's Convent.
Right.
I named it Arundel Priory because I thought I'm not going to bring my family up in St Wilfrid's Convent.
No.
And so I renamed it. I did a bit of research and I renamed it Arundel Priory, and it's been Arundel Priory to this day, and it is known to this day as Arundel Priory. Okay.
So join us in the next episode where we may be moving from Seaforth to Arundel along the coast. To the other end of Sussex, where, I don't know, it's nearly the tribes of Israel you're carrying, Eric, isn't it? I mean, because one would assume your family of, 9, 12, 13, 14 may be rising even further.
It might be, yes.
Okay.
In fact, it did. And I haven't even told you about the schooling in Dial House.
No, not yet.
Because, well, we'll continue that next
I
time.
I think the clock has beaten us yet again.
Yes, yes.
So this is a never-ending story of Eric's life. And bear in mind, he continues to live it. So we're adding to it every day. Thank you for watching. Look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.